America could best be described right now as just a giant bet on AI. It's hard to imagine a period, maybe back with the railroads, where our economy has been this dependent on a small number of companies. You have 10 companies that now represent 40% of the S&P by market value, which represents 20% of global value. If these companies sneeze, the whole world is probably catching pneumonia. And if you look at the multiples historically, the Shiller Index, which looks at the PE ratios on an inflation-adjusted basis, it is higher than it's been since they've been tracking it for 99% of the time. And it's in the top 1% right now of periods in terms of an index. The Buffett Index, which measures market cap as a percentage of GDP, typically trades around 85%. It's trading at 220%. So, and I want to be clear, when quote unquote people like myself are convinced something's about to crash, that means it's usually about to skyrocket, and then I throw the towel in and then it crashes. So
This is Tesla with Scott.
I'm having PTSD because I graduated from the High School of Business. I lived in San Francisco from 1992 to 2000, started 2 companies, Profit and Red Envelope. And I remember in 1997 thinking everyone, The Economist, everyone, Wall Street Journal, all the smartest people, Julian Robertson, all these incredibly smart investors said the dot-com, they perfectly called how the dot-com bubble would unwind. First it would be B2C, then it would be B2B, and then it would go to the infrastructure guys, the plays. Everyone was like, well, it's not B2C, go to B2B, and then go to Cisco. And Cisco and Amazon lost 90% of their value from 1999 to 2001. But the people who called it in 1997, the NASDAQ doubled from that point. But what you have is so frightening because, quite frankly, the string that might get pulled by some of the companies that are headquartered here, I mean, I'd like to give the mayor some talking points. In the last 5 years, as much as people shitpost California, there's been more wealth created in a 7-mile radius of SFO International Airport than in all of Europe in the last 20 years. I mean, it's striking how much value has been created here. But the string that might get pulled here is just so extraordinary. And I think it goes something like this. A large company announces that they're scaling back their investments in LLM.
A large non-tech company.
PepsiCo or Toyota says, look, on their earnings call, we made this enormous investment in site licenses from, OpenAI or Anthropic, and it's just not showing any ROI, or it's not showing the ROI we had anticipated. We're scaling back. And it's not OpenAI that could take, in my opinion, the market down. It's OpenAI, which is the helm of the bobsled. And then the company that could take the global economy down right now is one that is worth more than the entire German stock market, and that is NVIDIA. And that is, this company is worth $5 trillion. Take every company, publicly listed company in Germany, and half the companies publicly listed in France. That's what NVIDIA is worth. And so there is no soft landing. And if NVIDIA got cut by 60 to 80%, it still might not look cheap. And if you lose $2 trillion in market cap from the S&P, there's just nowhere to hide.
Right, because the other companies are the ones that are suffering from this was it Magnificent 7 or 10, is that they didn't get affected by tariffs. They didn't get affected by all kinds of things.
But the president, so this is the dark side of the run-up here, and that is I believe that AI without these 10 companies, the market, the S&P would be flat, possibly down,
Correct.
And we'd already be in a recession and GDP would be negative. And quite frankly, and you never know where externalities are going to come from, I don't think the president would have cloud cover to be sending mass secret service or secret police into cities if the market was down 2%. But because of the idolatry of the dollar and our obsession with wealth and innovators in this country, as long as the markets are up, most damaging metrics in history are the S&P and the NASDAQ because they give the illusion of prosperity. They are not the Main Street economy. And also, when the markets are up 16%, and as of this morning, 14%, it gives cloud cover for the administration to kind of do whatever they want because everyone's like, well, as long as the market's up, they must be doing something right, and I'll forgive them. So what you're going to see, I believe, is a series of nonsensical, crony, autocratic financings where they back debt to buy more chips and create these circular
This
deals.
is the government? Because we've been talking about Scott and I lived through the first internet part, which it was there's a company called Purchase Pro, and it was like, that was one of them. But there was all this round tripping where the same $5 would go from AOL would invest, and then they would spend on AOL and et cetera.
NVIDIA invests, I forget.
300 billion, wasn't it?
No, well, right now,
100 billion.
Right now, NVIDIA invests billions of dollars in OpenAI in exchange for them buying NVIDIA chips. That's a related party transaction. There were a ton of them going on in the late 90s. We were all buying each other's crappy software. And then when we realized that consumers weren't showing up at the level we'd anticipated for the great world of e-commerce, the whole thing, the downward spiral, I mean, these deals just feel very late stage 90s. It is different this time because these are real companies with real earnings growth. But when you're OpenAI committing to $1.2 trillion in spend on $12 billion in revenues, and by the way, I'd love to see the actual legal language behind these commitments to buy $300 billion in compute from Oracle, because there's no way they're not going to have an out. I think a lot of this is marketing. I think saying, I need 40 nuclear power plants and I'm going to buy $300 billion in compute is saying, Jesus, you should see the size of my dick. You haven't seen it, but just wait. I am so confident in my business that I'm going to commit to a $300 billion deal. I bet this deal, similar to a tariff deal, is a quote-unquote framework, and it's marketing saying, I know more than you, and these huge deals, they're trying to scare away competitors.
So one of the things when you have these kind of deals, it does create this froth. And even, as you said, these are companies with actual customers. Certainly OpenAI has many others. But it creates this, it so reminds you of the dot-com thing, except in the dot-com time period, to start a company was inexpensive. And there were lots of them, right? It was relatively inexpensive to start something up and gin it up, comparatively. Right now, you need data centers, you need energy, you need water. The amount of money spent on real things that they're spending on or committing to, they just announced something in Wisconsin and Louisiana, Meta did, et cetera. Now, Meta has plenty of cash because they make a lot of money through advertising right now. At some point, it's going to be good for maybe one, possibly two players, and everyone else is, I assume, is going to be shit out of luck. In this scenario, it's not going to be lots of companies.
So I have a different view on this, and that is because the majority of the people running these companies are under the age of 45, they don't remember airlines, vaccines, or PCs. And that is, I think the greatest innovation in history, other than the American middle class, is vaccines. It saves millions of people's lives every year. And by the way, if you don't believe that, your head is so far up your ass, I can't save you. But and I would imagine almost everybody here believes that. But we have come to believe that any huge tectonic innovation from technology can be sequestered by a small number of companies who create IP moats, create distribution moats, brand moats, such that they can accrete trillions of dollars in value or hundreds of billions to shareholders. There is no technology that's changed my life more than the ability to get in a plane and skirt the surface of the atmosphere at 8/10 the speed of sound. That is just such an unbelievable unlock. It took my parents 7 days crawling across the Atlantic and 6 months' salary to get to America. People to get to San Francisco 150 years ago used to have to stop and eat their nephews and nieces on the way. I mean, but guess what? As of today, if you added up all the profits and losses of the airline manufacturing industry and airlines, it's at break even. Vaccines, no one's made a lot of money from vaccines. Moderna stock is down 90%. I was on the board of Gateway Computer, which I realize is almost as weak a flex as you saying, I've been taking Waymos forever. And smell
this was
you.
Scott last night. Look, Waymos, as we were driving in.
I'm like, check that shit out.
Check it out.
Oh my God. So I could masturbate in the back and no one would care. Anyway. That was even awkward for me.
Did you do that today? Is that what you did today when you were away from me?
Don't rag on my hobbies.
Okay.
Anyway, so vaccines, PCs, we put a supercomputer on everyone's desk that cost $30 million just 15 years prior. The entire PC industry has been a shit show. What I was saying with Gateway Computer, we were the second largest computer manufacturer in the world. We sold the company for $700 million, which is what Google loses or makes in about 3 minutes in a trading day. My thesis is the following, that the ability to reverse engineer other LLMs because of AI. And the second factor, the CCP is so sick of this idiot fucking with them that they have said the easiest way to go for the jugular in America is to do in the 80s what they did with steel when they started dumping steel into America. I believe China right now is planning to dump massive AI LLMs at a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the energy consumption. It's going to take these companies down and really fuck with our economy. That's what I would do if I were Xi. So one, I think we're going to be the winners here, just as we were the winners from airlines, PCs, and vaccines.
And the internet.
But I don't think a small number of companies are going to be able to sequester the kind of value we are anticipating. So in sum, I think we're going to win as a society, but the markets, I think, are about to get an absolute shit-kicking as the string gets pulled on these small number of companies, which we have become way too dependent upon. Because if I'm in China, I'm like, I really would like to fuck with this guy. I'm going to dump so many cheap LLMs and AI into the ecosystem that these guys won't be able to have any sort of pricing power.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. It's a really problematic. You start to see it, including just this today. They used AI to do a hack for the first time, a fully AI-powered hack, there's all kinds of things the CCP can do to hurt us. And meanwhile, they spent a lot of time kissing up to Trump in order to get things, doing the Xi or me argument that we talked about. But let's move on to the latest Epstein news.